What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nilo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll continue with our Mars through Sign series, and next up is Mars and Gemini. So we've already covered Mars and Aries, Mars and Taurus, and just recap, Mars and Taurus was a much more relaxed Mars, a much more earthy Mars. Mars's main focus was, experiencing pleasure, grounding and establishing its value, and ultimately increasing one's personal wealth. Now, Mars in Gemini is a restless Mars because we know Gemini represents restless energy. It has this need to communicate ideas. Gemini represents all forms of communication, writing, publishing, media, as well as the lower mind. Okay? So, when our willpower and our aggression, our force, our competitive nature comes into this intellectual sign, one one wants to put its willpower into communicating its ideas. So in our Mars overview video, I told you that Mars gets his orders from the king and lives to serve the king, which is the sun. So when Mars is in Gemini, it really wants to appeal or, orchestrate its moves through the person's intellectual ideas. Okay? So, of course, we know Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury will be the depositor for Mars. Being that Mercury rules all forms of communication, these are your really blunt people. Gemini people as a whole are blunt. So when an aggressive planet comes into this sign, it makes for that. Now, how harsh, like aggressive, the speech actually will be, we will have to see where Mercury is, and also what's going on in that second house. Second house relates to the vocal cords. All right. But overall, they're very direct communicators. Whatever their passions lie within their intellectual ideas. So whatever their hobbies are going to be what really gets them going. And Gemini being the sign of versatility, this Mars can do a multitude of things. The natural inclination will be to go towards the fields that Gemini represents. Hence, we have a lot of news anchors and public figures out there with a Mars and Gemini, and that they're looking to be where the messages are being broadcast. But ultimately, Mars here, like I said, is restless. It wants constant action. So Mars Mars and Earth is great for your career. Great for your career. Um, Mars in air is definitely going to be great within getting those ideas out there. Okay? So, but it's just it's going to be hard to ground oneself to one particular thing. So, that ultimately becomes the major lesson for Gemini. Don't waste your energy in too many directions. Find the the genre or the arena of life that you excel in and work from within there. Don't try to jump from different genres. This is something that this Mars, you know, gets caught up in. But of course, this is where you want to pay attention to what do all your energies in your chart equal to? Do you have a lot of fire? Do you have a lot of air? And ultimately, that's where you want to see how to best use this Mars. Because I know people with Mars and Gemini who are very, multifaceted. But like I said, it'll be in a particular realm. Like the arts, sports. Mars and Gemini. These are those people who are really natural athletes that play like 3 sports and they're ambidextrous. That's another thing that I particularly seen with Mercury and also some Mars placements. It makes the person quite ambidextrous and very flexible. Okay, so like I said, the main lesson here is to ground one's energy in a particular direction, right? Next thing, Mars here is your natural debater. Gemini representing communication, and then Mars being this aggressive planet. Say Mercury and Mars happen to be conjunct. Very argumentative by nature. Not It doesn't have to be a pessimistic argumentative nature. It can be a sarcastic one, just intellectual one. You ever get around those people who may constantly correct you or challenge what you say, or just like, well, that's what you think, but this is what I think. Okay, that's Mars in Gemini. All right, so if you have this placement, be careful for, like I said, being too blunt, and too you don't want to like undermine people. All right, because Mars still is somewhat competitive. It's just going to be, you have to see where this competitiveness is going to play out, and that's in the form of the house. Okay, but just to touch back on the relationship between your Sun and your Mars. Um, Obvious. So whatever, if you happen to get Mars in the same sign as Sun, this makes it a whole lot clearer. If you get Sun in the same element as Mars, it makes it somewhat clearer as well. Now, when you're doing different combos, like, okay, so you always want to look at your Sun and your Moon, right? And then, because that's masculine and feminine energy, right? And then bring your Mars, and like I said, look at your Venus too, and just look at the element makeup to say, okay, how can I best use this Mars? Where is this Mars going to be satisfied? Because it just, this Mars in air, especially this air is out there, wants to keep moving. All right. So, guys, this is my interpretation of Mars in Gemini. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to comment. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my page, feel free to do so. Until next time, peace.